call the August 18th, 2021 Select Board regular meeting to order. The time is 6:32. We'll take a look at the agenda, review any changes to the agenda, if any. I would like to request that if we have any Zoom visitors or in-person visitors, that the agenda item that they pertain to will be moved further up in the evening from where they might originally be kept. Okay, so we have Daniel and Mr. Stats here. All right, so any other changes to the agenda besides what I just requested for unscheduled, scheduled members of the public being done later on?
What was the other name that you pronounced? Was that Tom somebody?
Tom Stats, S-T-A-A-T-S. And Daniel Klitgard, K-L-I-T-G-A-A-R-D.
Thank you.
All right, right now we're going to go to review and approve minutes from the August 4th, 2021 regular meeting. All right, so I have the draft minutes from August 4th in front of me. Does anyone have any changes on page 1 of 5?
I have just one thing.
Hey, David.
Peter, down under the roads, the flash flood damage report, the 1 to 3rd paragraph, Mr. Bills had spoken with Mark Pickering. Just Mark spells his name M-A-R-C, not M-A-R. So if you could just change that to M-A-R-C, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to page 2 of 5. Any changes on page 2 of 5?
Yes,
Stan, you have an item?
yes, under bids for material repainting discussion / vote. In the first line,
Excuse me.
middle of the sentence, the name of Michael is S, the last name is S as in Sam, T as in Thomas, A as in Apple, A as in Apple, T as in Thomas, S as in Stanley, and not P-L-A-A-T-F or whatever that is.
Thank you.
All right, so that name spelling correction. Anything on page 1 or 2, maybe one, okay, we're on page 2 right now.
Good timing, huh? Let's see what we got here.
I mean, who does it?
Oh, yeah, it's a. Where it says Platypus beetles,
Have a post beetle chemical application discussion.
there's second paragraph, capital T, should have been small t, it's real small stuff.
We're tabling the matter.
Yeah, we got that as a large T too, there was a couple of them, capital T, yeah, Ms. Magic suggested tabling the matter, should have been small.
Anything else on page 2?
Yep, thorough vacuuming. Oh, gee, Mom, again, handwriting.
Thorough vacuuming of the branch
Should
house.
should be thorough spelled wrong.
Oh, it's spelling.
Third
Thorough.
from the bottom. And the item was tabled down further, capital T, that should have been small t.
Where was,
Down towards the bottom. It says the item was tabled. So
The next to last section on page 2.
two.
Mr. Logan discussed the front porch forum?
Excuse me. Is tabled supposed to be capitalized or not?
Say again?
Did you want tabled capitalized or not?
Not,
Not.
it's not. Yeah, it's not really a big deal. It was
Okay.
correct.
All right,
Reading this.
page 3 of 5. Any changes on page 3 of 5?
Under dog license, the second category, I should after email be a period or a /.
Dog license email blast sent.
Email dog license.
Mr. Tanza, what do you want this? you want?
Well, it says, Mr. Tanzer reported some responses to the dog license
Email.
email. And
Period.
there's a forward slash after L,
Okay, so
just in here, just a few.
just add punctuation. Anything else on page
Looking
3 or
forward
5?
to it.
All right,
Page 3 or 5?
I'm good for you.
Okay, page 4 or 5? None, move on to page 5 or 5. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from Wednesday, August 4th, 2021, as amended. May I have a second?
second,
Seconded by Stan Noga. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from Wednesday, August 4th, 2021, as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
Any opposed? The draft minutes have been approved as amended. All right, next item is review and approve the minutes from the August 10th, 2021 emergency meeting. One page of minutes. Does anybody have any editing or any changes to the minutes, the draft minutes from Tuesday, August 10th, 2021?
The only thing I noticed is that I think under the, and you could add it probably under the third part about going into, we should note the time that we went into executive session and the time that we exited executive session. I think that's a requirement of the minutes. So
I don't have my numbers here. I probably should have.
I know,
Oh, wait, 641.
that sounds familiar.
I have it on my
Okay.
sheet here on the other side. All right, we entered into executive minutes. We will add at 6:41 PM.
And we came out at,
6:41 PM. Entered. And we came out. Don't have the time exactly that we came out. It was. The meeting ended at 8:33. I think it came out something around 8:10 or 8, wasn't very late,
This is the first one.
the first one.
We were an hour. Anyway, what was it, 6:41? Oh, excuse me.
We started at 6:41,
It was at least an hour.
7:41 hour.
Oh, I think it was like an hour. It was an hour with him.
And we ended the meeting at 8:35.
I would say it was more like
An hour and a half.
35. Yeah, it was more like 10 to 8 or something like that. I remember it being over an hour. Mark spoke for almost an hour and then we were in it.
it wasn't very close anyway.
Yep. I don't remember the exact time, but I remember it being something like an hour and 20 minutes.
And then we spoke after we dismissed.
Yeah,
Mark.
and then
That's right.
it did
We
take
did
us
for a
much
half
longer.
hour.
And you said 8:35 we closed now?
We closed at
Yeah, I would say
8:35.
an hour and a half total in emergency in
So that.
executive sessions, I guess.
6:41, so
10
until,
after 8, 5 after 8.
that's what I thought. That's what I said, about 10 after 8. And we were at it. All right, so I will add that the executive session ended at approximately 8:10.
and the other thing is you should record that the vote was unanimous to enter into the executive session. I think we have to have that recorded also.
Oh, that the motion that we went into executive session.
You have that that it was moved and seconded, but not that it was
All right,
approved or whatever.
perfect. I'll fix that on the minutes when I retype it. Anything else for the minutes from August 10th? Hearing none, I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from August 10th, 2021 as amended. May I have a second?
Second.
Bruce seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the emergency meeting on August 10th, 2021 as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passed, the minutes have been, draft minutes have been accepted as amended. Right, next one. Review and approve minutes from the August 12th, 2021 special meeting. All right, are there any changes or amendments to this draft minutes from Thursday, August 12th? I know one.
Well, I would just have the same things that we need to record that there was a vote and that it was unanimous and the time we went in and came out. Exactly.
I don't like the.
I can try that. All right, so we pretty much called the meeting to order. We had no changes and we went into executive session. I'm guessing it would probably be at the same time, I would say 6:40. I'm gonna say that we entered into executive session at 6:40 p.m. and that we exited executive session. This was a fairly early meeting. Do you remember the time you left?
I had written it down on a piece of paper, but I don't have that piece of paper.
No, I don't either. If you will allow me, I will go back to the video and double check the exit time and amend that to the time based upon the videotaping. I apologize for not having that right now. And I'll also add about the vote.
So you can redo it next on the first.
All right, how about we table approving this set of draft minutes until it's been edited correctly? I don't have the time on it. So at the next meeting, we will, press on the table this. Is that all right with you, David?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Whatever's easiest.
All right, scheduled members of the public. I'd like to welcome Daniel. Daniel, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, hello everyone.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello,
Daniel is a new member, a new resident here in Brookline. He lives down on Parker Road, and he has met with both Tom Kabat and myself, and he has an interest in joining our planning board for the upcoming year. Tom had expressed that he is going to he's finding it difficulty with some family concerns to do all of the work that may be coming up for the next planning session for our committee. So we recruited Daniel and he seems quite interested in doing it. And so without any further ado date, Dan, do you want to tell us just a little bit about yourself very briefly? So you can introduce us to Stan Noga over here and Bruce Mello here. Of course, myself, not Matt. When Tamsin couldn't make it this evening, she has a family commitment. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, good to virtually meet you all. Hopefully we can do it in person soon. I moved here to Brookline in October of last year. Came here from Chicago, where I'd lived for 5 years, and before that, I moved to the States from Denmark. So from Europe originally, but yeah, moved up. I'm at 78 Parker Road, and work up here in my office remotely. I work at a software company in marketing. So yeah, and excited to join and hopefully contribute and start working with you all.
Well, it's much appreciated. We were going to talk about it later on in the meeting under select board chair report, but welcome you to start now so you can get back to your lovely wife and beautiful daughter. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint, Daniel, how do you say your last name? Pronounce it.
It would be Klitgaard in Danish. Klitgaard is what I'm flexible. I know it's a tough one.
Okay, so Daniel, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Daniel Pickard to our planning commission for the town of Brookline. May I have a second on that appointment?
Second.
Seconded by Bruce Mello. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of appointing Daniel Pickard to the planning commission, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I would like to welcome you to the community known as the Brookline Volunteers for the Planning Commission here in town. We will be working with you as time goes on, and I believe Tom is going to set up a committee meeting soon to talk about the different aspects and what who would be doing what in the planning for the town of Brookline's next report. So Daniel, thank you very much. You're welcome to stay on if you'd like, or you may again join your family, but appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for being willing to join the committee.
Yeah, happy to.
All right, we will move on to moving up on the agenda. As I mentioned at the beginning, if we had scheduled members that showed up, we would move that item a little earlier in the meeting. So before we go and do anything else, we'll introduce, we have Sam Bourne. Sam Bourne. Kerry Bourne, K-E-R-R-Y.
Yes.
K-E-R-R-Y, Bourne, B-O-U-R-N-E. And as I mentioned before, Tom Stats is here, and Mark Bills is also here this evening. That's for Peter's reporting of the information. All right, gentlemen, who would like to speak first? All right, Kerry.
I will. Kerry Bourne. Yeah, I'm here to speak about the Round Schoolhouse. Round Schoolhouse is a very unique historic structure that there's only one in the world like it. And I would have liked the opportunity to work on it. I learned that the work that got done on it was just $3,000 for one day's work. And having a daughter in college, I would have relished that opportunity as well. I do historic preservation work. I have for about 3 decades, and I thought that was pretty well known. I don't advertise, but I never needed to. As far as being on some of my past commitments to the town, about 5 years ago, I rebuilt the Greer Bridge. And I believe I saved the town about $15,000 when I did that. More than that. 31 years ago, I redesigned and built the town grader building. I believe I saved a significant amount of money on that as well. In the past, I'm on the Brookline Meeting House Committee, and I have donated willingly a lot of my time and expertise on that. I have I logged 30 hours in the crawl space and being instrumental on the heavy timber repair. We jacked the steeple up. I was about that many hours as well, implementing the balustrade rebuild. Spent the day on the lift, 65 feet in the air. Last summer's project was I hand dug the septic system at the meeting house and repaired it. Documented the existing conditions in the town. I know there's a list that the select board goes over. or uses to hire people in town, and I think with those tasks behind me, I should have been on that list. But I'd like to be on it in the future.
Right. We have extended that 2 years ago. Just have to get the paperwork done.
Right, but
Vendor
why
list. I have it.
am I not on it? I mean, I have,
We need
five,
paperwork. We need-
well, I provided a certificate of insurance when I did that job, the rear bridge replacement.
We found in our purchase policy that Judy Akinpur, our assistant treasurer, pointed out to me this year that every year the sole source vendors need to be reapproved during the first meeting of August, first meeting of the fiscal year, so in July. So I started to put together that list, and we did, I think, 2 updates to it. Here, July 7th, we did the approval of the first batch of it. And then on July 21st, we realized that we had others that should be approved again that are constant or vendors. And Mr. Nova said we should have Terry Warren on this list as well because of his contributions. And so I sent you out an email, and we just have a vendor packet that needs to be kept on file. And there's I don't know if Mike Masters is still here, but he can give you that packet. It consists of a contract saying that you are an independent person, you're not an employee of the town. And it just says if you have insurance, we will be paying workers' compensation. So it's something for the audit that has to be done. And it's, I guess it should have been done on a more regular basis, but Judy pointed it out, and so we have it this year. It's a vendor list, approved vendors that can be called on that are already pre-approved and have demonstrated quality work for the town. And it's redone every year.
Should be done every
It should be
year.
done every year. Going forward, it will be. It's something that's new on our horizon that she pointed out to us. But for what you were saying, I know we spent some time together talking. We do appreciate your effort. I understand, I think I explained to you that the meeting house or the historical committee, I'm gonna make, I'll make this story short. When I came on board, the select board in 2014, I was aware of $5,000 grant. People were talking about it here and there. I left the select board for 2 years, and when I came back in March, sometime in April, I heard that $5,000 still hasn't been spent from the $25,000 grant that came from the Vermont Preservation Society. And we started to ask the historical committee, please, if you're not going to do it, the select board is going to apply for the rest of that grant money because we knew that we could do some more work in there. We talked about electricity and other things. Mr. Wellman and Mr. Dutton and Cynthia were contacted, and Mr. Dutton and Mr. Wellman met, and I guess it was in May, which I'm not sure.
April 2nd.
April, okay, they met in April. In May, Stan Nova came aboard, and we were not getting enough things going. It was very slow. We were concerned about the deadline of August 1st. So I asked Stan if he would take on getting this project going. So I came in March, Stan came in May, and by the end of July, we had that grant completed, which was a little bit rushed, and I will admit that the committee did not do due diligence in providing 2 bids for that project. However, I don't want to say water under the bridge, rear bridge. I apologize professionally to you and to anybody else that this may have affected. One of the things I am learning is that communication is very, very important. I have seen just about everybody in this room dirty, sweaty, maybe injured and hungry. They've done volunteer work for the town. It's very much appreciated. No hard feelings. I hope going forward, I will be more transparent. I think using Julie's listserv to say, hey, look, we're gonna be putting out the sand bid, or we're gonna be doing this, or we're doing some work in the meeting house, or we're doing some work in the round schoolhouse. I will make that effort to be more transparent, and so if things of that sort comes up, I hope it will never happen again. I apologize
Thank you.
for the select board.
Thank you.
And the fact that sometimes appointed committees don't really follow the letter of the law, but I was disappointed because they were two past select board members that should have known better and should have done a little bit more due diligence, but it falls back on me, so I will take that.
Well, I don't think you should take the responsibility of it exclusively, but I've got to follow up here. You know, on doing my volunteer work for the town, I neglected to charge or want to charge or offer my services professionally because of the worry of somebody crying foul, reading into it that maybe my motives were financially driven. So anyway, I never did charge for materials and labor and expertise. I can't help but feel that the efforts that I have put forth, the values of my efforts have been lessened by this current procedure.
I'm sorry, Beth.
It's, that's the way I feel about it, and I will have to say that in the future, I'm happy to do tasks that need to be done, but I'm gonna charge for
I appreciate that.
it.
Should.
Yeah, I think it's been proven to me that it will be appreciated more, and maybe I'll be remembered. So to follow this up, I would like to ask the permission of the select board to join this meeting house committee or historical preservation committee that includes the round schoolhouse.
Say that again?
He wants to join the historical preservation, not school.
No, the historic commission.
So Brookline should say.
Well, actually, I would like to talk about that because I think that we really need, I think it's odd in town that we have a historic
Commission.
no, it's called Historic Society, Historical Society, and the Brookline Meeting House group. And either one of them, both historical buildings, but I think you should have two individual ones. It's the Round Schoolhouse Committee and the Brookline Meeting House Committee. I would like to see them join.
Well,
But-
our committee was asked about a year ago if we wanted to merge with the round schoolhouse. Our answer collaboratively was that we had plenty to do ourselves and that we didn't really want to take the round schoolhouse on. But however, when I see things like this happen and the inactive board that's there, I'd rather be part of the solution than the problem.
Thank you very much for saying that. I will add it to the agenda for further discussion at the next select board meeting. I actually might be suggesting that we disband the historical society and have a round schoolhouse committee so that I can be reappointed with people who are interested in working on it. And that's what I'd like the select board to consider. Yes, sir.
If the opportunity came up to join the two, how do you feel about that? Would you rather not? Or can there be like a subset of the larger group? Because it almost looks like the goal of each is to accomplish the same thing, to repair a historic building. And I'm wondering if having to be concerned from the select board standpoint, committee here and a committee there. I know we talked about this years ago when you and I were on this, the preservation of the church, well, not meeting us. And at that point, it was an idea that with the people that were on it then, that it might be a worthy possibility to do, but we felt uncomfortable because there was this $5,000 hanging out there and nothing was happening. And we want to take that We didn't want to offend the other people on that other group, so we thought we'd keep ourselves separate. And so that's what happened back 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm kind of curious, both of you for that matter,
I'll have
what you
to-
think about that.
Well, personally, I think it would work out, but I need to go to our committee and see if they're willing to take on more work. We're all trying to fit this stuff in.
There's
And,
one- If I could just say one thing further.
but it may be an efficient way to deal with it.
One of the things that I'm recognizing through this process of having two groups is that the Meeting House Committee has been on occasion applying through the Preservation Trust of Vermont for grants. And I think if I read notes right, minutes, I'm sorry, properly, there was a grant that the Meeting House group had asked for last October. And I could see where there might have been
I
a,
don't think it was preservation. Right.
well, the minutes said preservation.
I think it had to be back to the national, or the historic preservation through, where we got the other grant from.
That's who, well, anyway, but what I'm thinking about is, I wondered if in part, the fact that that one wasn't granted was in any manner, shape or form predicated on the fact that they were having a hard time getting rid of the last 5,000 and they weren't getting much response from the people that were responsible in our town to getting along with that. And so that was, I'm saying, could that have been possible? I don't know, but I'm wondering if it was the one group that was responsible all the way along the road. If the opportunity or the thinking or the characterization that we're presenting as a town to that source of the grant would be enhanced if there were no problems, everybody's doing it the same way, everybody knows what the rules are, and just proceeding in a unified manner. But I can understand the volunteer work. It's like a selectman, like what you do, you didn't put in a lot of time, at times it feels like nobody appreciates it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That feels it.
Okay, I would like to say that, of course, I would love to have you working on another committee if you have the time. I know I enjoy working with the Brookline Meeting House Committee people, and there's not as much to do over at the Brown Schoolhouse except some repairs for the shed work, which can be planned, and there is some money in an account for that at this time. But I would like to spend a little bit more time next meeting to talk about it a little bit more thoroughly with, and reach out to the committee members and tell them what my idea is. And I will send an email blast out to the residents to see, who wants to get involved. I sent an email out for a request for a wet dry back from the meeting house last night. I had like 8 people volunteer to either contribute or buy one, and I was just very moved by the people wanting to get involved. So I'm gonna try that outreach more, and I welcome you on that committee or another committee here in town. And next, I'll get it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Thank you, Doc.
Did you include the roof of the meeting house as part of what you've done in the past? Because if I recall correctly, you orchestrated that with Mr. Phoenix.
Well, I didn't want to get overly particular in what I've done. There's a lot of people in town who do a lot of things, but yes, that. I also put a ridge cap on the Brown Schoolhouse building. Stopped last year and screwed the roofing down. It had been ripped back by a storm.
Yeah.
My interests are in sincerely historic preservation. So I can't help myself but to show some responsibility for things.
Much appreciated, and I hope you know that we did hear you and respect what you had to say. And
You were requested to be on that list.
yes, you are. Bruce?
There are a couple points I want to make. First of all, I want to go back to 2015. When you say this had a huge amount of money,
Oh, yeah.
I believe the quotes we had at the time were what, I'm not gonna name names, but let me back up for a second. Myself, Mark Phils, Archie Clark, looked at Greer Bridge quite thoroughly. I was new on the board at that time.
So you've done
I was
great.
a rookie. And when we got done and analyzed everything, you and I worked pretty closely about encouraging your bid and the ideas that you had, and it worked out famously. That I believe the bill was $6,200 or $6,500 if my memory strikes me correct. We had quotes in excess of $30,000.
$30,000, exactly.
I know one person who's not with us anymore, it was over $30,000. And another person who's very competent in town, has experience, thought we should put all these concrete abutments in and everything. And you did it for a nominal price, and I'm of the opinion that that thing is gonna last bridge for 100 years. Saying that, I wanted to fast forward to something else. I've been on a mission for the last 2 years to work on these buildings. One's done, praise God, and we're moving on to the others. We've been working on them since spring, so like Don says, if we neglected to notify you, we certainly apologize for that. Your help and what you've done in the past has been invaluable, so it wasn't because we're ignoring that. Like they said, I'm being repetitive, but I just want to drive it home, but we were a little bit under the gun to get that money done, to get everything satisfied on August 1st. That's not an excuse, but that's just what happened. So,
Pardon? Terrible excuse in my eyes.
well, I'm sorry for that. We apologize.
All right, is there
That is a
anything
terrible
else?
excuse.
I think so, and I just want to make one more point. Stan and I have been working pretty closely, so we've been working on this building and we've been working on the round schoolhouse. So we're looking at trying to tie things up and get things as up to date as possible. The round schoolhouse is just cleaned. The round schoolhouse was, for the lack of a better word, was awful. But if you look in there now, it looks dramatically different. So we've been working very hard in here, in there, over and above this school, which is now done, and trying to do a nice job to make these buildings up to snuff, which would, in my mind, being on the board over 8 years now, seriously neglected, especially the school. That's a whole other issue, but I've made my point.
All right, Carrie.
I'm finished.
Mr. Stats, what can we help you with this evening?
Well, I'm kind of repeating Carrie's thing, but I just wanted the board, in case now people know my name, Stan knows me, you know me, but in case somebody doesn't know me, I've lived in town for 40 years. I did Green Up Day. I initiated Green Up Day in this town, brought it back into town originally, before Joyce's group took it over. I was on the Brookline School Board for 2 years, on 2 terms, both times as the chair. I was on the select board 2 terms, both times as chair. I was on the road commissioner for 2 terms. I filed for grants and brought in over $300,000 worth of grants into this town. My truck drives back and forth with new paint painters on it, 2 trucks in town. And the fact that the work that was done on that round schoolhouse in 2009, I have a folder here that a photo journal of everything that was done in that building that I did. I put those front steps on. I took that beam out that was rotten. I brought the rocks down from my house to build that stone wall there. Mark Mills cut me that beam, or got that beam from his mill. And the drain went on the inside. I'll show you these pictures here. Here, see them? Sure. It's just really disheartening that living in town, you're saying you're trying to get volunteers, you're trying to get people. Well, you had volunteers. You had somebody that's done this all for nothing my whole life in this town. I feel so put out by you guys. I would, I feel like I live in Brookline. My Brookline now is my house. I'm a taxpayer. I've done so much in this town, and you couldn't even think that new paint painters would be interested in that. You didn't even, you didn't follow the 3. You're supposed to have 3 estimates. 2 estimates. Well, it's a different policy than I guess than one when I was here.
That's all the amount.
This is based on the amount.
Over $1,000. We have 3 estimates. Okay. Did you get 2 estimates for that?
We didn't do the estimates, that's what I was saying.
Well, where are the minutes of that? They're an elected body. They're supposed to have minutes for their meeting.
They are, what they are.
The bid is on the
If
website.
you look at the.
You look at all these pictures here. I dug that woodshed out by hand. I brought my backhoe, did drainage around it and drained it out to the road. I took the wood steps that were off. You see this? There's no steps on that. See these stone steps? You guys can have all these. I built these stone steps. You know, and if that was $3,000 what you paid Parker to do, this had to have been $20,000. I replastered the front hallway. I took the power out, I replastered that. When Jessup did the rebuild and fixed the floor, he put in new paneling, the paneling didn't match. I went in and stained that to blend it to match. If you want to see a really nice pictures, I could show you the ones of all the lanterns that I replaced in there. Those lanterns were stolen sometime in the 70s. And I went online and I bought all new lanterns and mercury reflectors for it.
Right, I was looking at them yesterday.
Yeah, and I cleaned the building, I took care of the building, and all of a sudden I get a note.
Bought the windows too, Tom.
I took all the windows out, rebuilt them, the ones that were, and I purchased new ones down at the new salvage. I've got all, I'm gonna give you guys all this, it's free time.
I would
I
love
looked
to
through
see
it all.
that.
And I'm just pissed off that the
I know.
fact that not only did you get somebody else to do it and nobody would even thought of me as a volunteer, but you got somebody to do it who did a shitty job, a really shitty job, and they did a shitty job on the woodworking too. If you look at that building there, the siding doesn't even color the beam that I bought. that Mark brought
We
down.
saw it.
And you approved it and you paid the guy for it. You know, and then who would do something like that? That's not restoration work, that's shit work. You know, and you can say I can down here, bust their ass, you know, Stan, you warned me the other day on the phone, you know, those are people down there, they have feelings too. Well, I have feelings too. You guys have, this town of Brookline has shoved it up my ass, the way I can look at it.
All right, all right, all right.
Yeah, you don't want to hear that word, but that's the way I feel right now.
Let's
And
keep
you know
it
what it
legitimate. Okay, let's just keep it legitimate.
That's it.
I
I
understand.
have, wait a minute.
That is legitimate.
There's nothing we can say, there's nothing.
You had a responsibility to go about this the right way.
You are
had a
absolutely
responsibility to treat
correct.
your-
That's okay.
You
How do
may
we-
address.
How do we improve it, how do we improve it going forward?
You're gonna have
We can go beat us up all you want.
pounding the drums, find more volunteers. You treat them like that, you're not gonna keep them very long.
I hear you. I am very disappointed that the appointed committee from the Round Schoolhouse, two past select board members, did not follow normal protocol in a situation that they had known about for 9 or 10 years. It's wrong, I agree.
I was doing that work for free and Cynthia said, we've gotta go through committee, you gotta stop. So we go, that's why that beam's out there since 2009,
I understand.
12 years. I got told to stop working because it has to go through committee. They have
Okay.
$5,000 sitting there. So it's not a matter of nobody knows me, it's a matter of somebody doesn't like me. So
No,
that's the way we're hiring people.
no,
That's not the case,
no, that's
I'm
just not
sorry.
accurate.
Well,
Wait,
if you, I'm not saying it's you that,
Tom,
but somebody on that committee, why wouldn't they follow
That
through?
maybe, I don't know, you know the people more better than I do.
Yeah,
The
I know,
situation
but
is that
that's what I've had.
Cynthia's a chair, and I believe she's 88 now, and can't even read, can't even walk. We have been talking about this for a little while, by trying to work out, how do I say this? A more responsive committee. Because it hasn't been responsive, and it hasn't been responsive for years. In fact, I remember approaching Cynthia back, it's gotta be 4 years ago anyway, at Dutton's, asking her about that $5,000 grant, and she said she would take care of it. And I'm not beating up Cynthia, she must have been 83 or 84 at the time. I'm not beating her up, but then it fast forward and somebody else was gonna take care of that grant. I'm not gonna mention any names, and that person was very capable and competent to do it and didn't do it. And it wasn't until the preservation of Vermont under new, wasn't Paul Bloom because he died, the new guy Ben Doyle had taken over, they must have realized that was left over, that wasn't used, and that's, otherwise we would never even.
Talk about it.
Oh, we would have known about it, but we gave up because no one had acted on it. And I beat that drum back in 2015, 2016, so I was blue in the game, I'll take care of it, all the, never happened.
So then when it does come, so it's an emergency, it's gotta happen. You don't think of, nobody
They
thinks
should-
of people in
it
town,
should
the
have been-
residents that have
it
been
should have
doing the work. You take somebody from out of town to do it. Why, I don't understand why that would be the first person that you would think of, oh, geez, let's call.
I didn't do it.
Them over New Bank. You know, my truck isn't visible enough that somebody would say, geez, babe, we got 2 painters in town. Why?
All right, well, we're gonna,
They're getting the impression that we were trying to exclude you. That's not, that just is the way it was. If we
That's the
had,
way it feels.
if we had gone, wait a minute, if we
Sitting
had
here
gone through the
feeling
normal,
stuff too.
wait, please.
None of
If we had
us-
gone through the
none of
normal,
us-
excuse
let me,
me,
can I finish?
one person,
I was talking first.
all right.
If we were going through a normal situation, Tom, where we were making a bid on something, it would take a time. We were under the dress, you don't think that's a good excuse, but that's what happened. We had basically a 2-month window, and if I remember, we're going
Was
back
less
to
than that.
June, we had to get paperwork in to approve it in order to get that money. So we put the pedal to the metal so we could get that $5.
We did not
You called
get-
me up and asked me if I could give you an estimate. Did you?
No, they did
No,
not, it was not done.
It was not done,
That's
it wasn't
wrong.
done by us.
What's that?
We didn't,
We were not running a meeting, we were not running the committee for them, we were.
Don't you approve all the money that's spent over there to the select board too?
We approved the spending of the money based upon the work that was done from the president, we had a scope of work and we had it approved, yes.
and in scope of work, if you read that, go in and look at the minutes of the Brown Schoolhouse Committee, they said that the windows were going to be restored. They
They're
said,
not restored.
I know, I'm making a point. We got a lot of different information that we went ahead assumed was correct, and it wasn't. So the scope wasn't even correct based on what I found out after the fact. And he also said, if you look at those minutes, the shed was gonna be restored. So, you know, it's.
Isn't that what a preservation grant is all about? Isn't it supposed to take, a historic preservation supposed to restore it back to its original?
Absolutely.
You're not supposed to take cut a 4-foot chunk out of a sill and put in a different species of wood in there that's already got powder holes, beetle holes in it?
You know, that's a whole story there. I try to be helpful.
I don't
You
see
know?
any, I don't.
Did you say whether-
There might be holes in there, but I looked at it, was it this year?
That's not
And I
even the
didn't
same
see any,
species.
I didn't see any dust from them, so I don't know if it's active or not.
Well, that's not how you replace it.
There is.
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
This
There's
is
been
gonna be
enough
a-
discussions.
You're
All
right.
right.
This is
I
gonna be a
have,
shooting
I have
match.
a question.
I'm
I have a
going to,
quick question.
I'd like to finish up with Mr. Stats. Mr. Stats, I understand where you're coming from, and you're not gonna be satisfied with what was done. I just hope that in the future that you will see that things are going to be improved upon. I'm learning, I really like to maintain the continuity, I like working with the select board and active committees, I enjoy being here in Brookline.
And I
I wish
appreciate the
we
work you
would've-
do very much, and Stanley. And you groups, you know, I'm just pissed off tonight,
I
I guess,
know.
at the whole
We got
situation.
that.
I've been
I got
sitting where you guys are sitting, and I wasn't gonna get mad at it. It's not you guys, I'm just mad
The
at my
situation.
town right now. I'm
Correct.
mad at the situation.
Well, let's improve it.
You're saying that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, let's improve it.
No, I work with you, Stan, I have great respect for you, I don't think you. I think it's the other committee that
I
chose
know
somebody
it is.
else, and I think they
But
chose
it's our
somebody else because they don't like
responsibility, Tom.
That's why I-
It's our
But that's
responsibility.
not the way we should be doing things in Brookline, we shouldn't be taking personal animosity.
This
And
is
the
the
fire
exception
is
and not
so
the
big.
rules, that was the exception out of the rule on how I like to see things get done, honestly. In all respects. Mr. Bourne, then we do need to move on. because we're
Yes.
not past-
Yeah, my question is so who did contact the vendors that were allowed to do the work? And
The
also,
committee,
Specifically,
yes,
I believe, well, again, looking at those minutes, Doug Bowman contacted the painter, Mr. Holden, and Joe got a hold of Chris Parker. That's later.
I keep hearing the number 5,000, but it was 3,000 for the woodwork,
carpentry work,
and it was $1,500 for
For
the
the
4
windows.
windows.
And
correct.
it seemed,
Where's the other 5?
A sign's gonna be there.
We're having a sign painted,
Uh-huh.
it's gonna be more than 5, but we're picking up the difference of it, I think it's $650.
possibly more because of the
Additional sentence, but we're
It's a
picking
local
up the
person.
addition.
These
That
two,
local person did it for
is,
free last.
are Joe and
sorry?
Doug
That local
still,
person did it for free last time, as a volunteer.
I understand.
That may be, that may be.
was also a new paint. Yeah, I'll speak.
And
My-
let me,
my quick- my quick
preface, we
question-
had 5 bids for the sign. And we chose a local person to do it, and they were willing to do it in a way that replicates what's there, which is what the Preservation Trust requires. So, you know,
That was
we
his
did
original-
everything that was in our power to do the right thing. So, you know, that's an example of where our hearts really are. I'd just like to point that out.
Stan, I don't think you've got it in you to be anything but honest. You know, I work with, and I'm not accusing you of that. I just saw the work that was done there, the work that was approved, and it just appalled me because I tried so hard to do such a nice job on that. And I look at what's done, and even the material I supplied there, the beam, the rocks, everything, and it's like somebody took it and just goofed it up. And what is the follow-up on having that corrected? You know, what are we going? Are we
We
going?
had Normal in here 2 days ago, he has come in and he has done additional work there.
He promised that by today he'd have it completely done. He's been so busy.
What about the siding that doesn't cover the framework?
That's another person, that's not,
I know that's another person, but is
I
that,
haven't had time to get it all done.
all I'm saying is.
I
you know,
will reach out and I will reach out.
My question was, is there gonna be follow-up to correcting it?
I don't believe, there has been follow-up. Matter of fact, Carrie I was wrong. You had pictures of there being 2 posts on the ground. And I remember with going in and out so many freaking times that there were, excuse my French, there were boards on top of those, and I thought those boards were injured.
They're all cleaned out.
I know, I went back and looked at the picture, and then that night, the other night, after you and Dot and I talked, I emailed Mr. Parker and I asked him about the length of the boards and about the trash pile that was inside. Never got a response, but I am told by a guy that I saw him here the next morning, I think it was relatively early, getting the trash out of there. And I went back and I thought, and I actually asked him, I said, I've been told by someone who's does a lot of work in restoration, didn't want to mention your name, get you in trouble in any way, shape, or form. And that the barn board should have come down to the bottom part of the sill. And he had not responded to that. But in the pictures you have here, the pictures I have before anyone began work on it, because I did it before and after, so the Preservation Trust would know what was there. The barn boards that come down were not below the bottom of the sill, they did not cover the entire sill, as it appears in the photographs. If you look at
The
this,
sill went all the way to the ground. That sill was originally, if you look at those photos, was along the ground and ran in front of the doorstep.
I just saw some that don't have that. They show a layer of rocks or two,
Right.
and
well,
there, and the 2 boards, 3 boards over in the corner, which would be the northeast corner, I'm sorry, northwest corner,
I cut those
are
boards off.
off of those. You probably did, I don't know. but-
What I'm saying is,
Yeah.
that sill used to be on the ground and it was rotted on the ground. So I thought what I would do is I build a stone wall because this stuff had built up. So I built the stone wall up to the level of the other wall and was going to place the thing. I cut all the rotten boards off. So they weren't, if they weren't long enough, they should have been replaced with some that are long.
That's the thing, I don't know, but I don't see that there's so many people that talk with the people, before we took this over, which finally, we didn't get approval till the 28th of June. With the job having to be done by August 1st. That Doc was able on that day to send a note saying, you can go to it. I have no idea, Joe Dutton told us that he had talked with the president of PVT, Preservation Trust of Vermont, PVT, and went over all this with him. So me getting into it firsthand, after everything's been talked about with somebody else, is when they have asked him that, are you sure, Joe, they're gonna do this, you sure you're gonna, Joe, you're gonna do that? And Joe's having a discussion with them and tells us, yeah, it's all taken care of. I've already talked to them about it. But we felt, knowing what you guys go through on the meeting house, you gotta send the paperwork. So I find myself saying regarding Mr. Parker, if he showed up and that's the length of the boards that were already cut, he's likely, and I'm not trying to make excuses for him, but looking at trying to be fair to everybody involved as best I can, without being brutal or nasty, is that he probably figured he'd finish what is there and make it look presentable. And didn't even think of saying, let's bring them down to the ground where they ought to be. So, and that's the only excuse, and I'm just trying to be an intermediary, I'm not trying to justify
The
it.
chainsaw off. That's what, because they were rotted, the whole bottom of the building was rotted out. I cut them off the chainsaw so I could work there. And I cut them right to where they were good. They needed to be replaced when the beam was from here at the right length. So
Yeah,
I mean, you can make an excuse for Mr. Parker, but that's his business.
Yeah,
And you
I,
should know that you've got, the framework needs to be covered up. You don't need framework exposed, so.
well, we will be getting in touch with Mr. Parker again, as we did with Norm. Norm came in and did some follow-up work, and I will talk personally with Mr. Parker about his concerns. It doesn't help the fact that you weren't considered for the bid, it wasn't us. But I do want to share with you that I have asked that committee, and I'll quote from a letter sent July 27th, if you want to remain active as a Brookline Historical Committee, the select board would like you to hold a warned meeting to discuss the issues as soon as possible, but before August 13th. The select board meets on August 4th and August 18th. If you would like to be added to the agenda in August, please let us know. And so, yeah, I realize that it's really not a functioning committee, and like I said, I would like to disband it, and I would like to reestablish a round school bus committee. That's where I'm going at, and I will hopefully fresh start make things a little different. I will try to be more conscious of the communities and such, and I appreciate your coming this evening. But if we could move on to some other things, we have a very long agenda that I don't need to cut you off, but I do need to move on.
I had one other issue that I'd
Certainly,
like to
sir,
talk
go ahead.
about, aside from around schoolhouse, and perhaps I should wait for another one time. And I would just, my question is to the select board, when I came here probably a month or two ago, and I saw you,
Yes,
and Guy was out there, and his wife, my was out there, and we talked about the gravel situation on
I
the
had
road.
an answer.
And then I asked about the road commissioner, and you had stated at that time that we have a road commissioner, but mostly just in name. Because the road commissioner hasn't really showed up at any, hasn't been to many of the meetings. And so the select board is doing most of the, you're doing the, who's final, when I asked who's final for branch, he says, well, that's the
David
select.
Jones, David Jones is
So
been
the select
working on
board
that.
has been,
Yes.
So I
And
know,
Archie, I think Archie has, I think there's, well, I don't have any.
Well, it's worth clarifying something there. I'm finishing working on grants that I started working on with Mark prior to Archie coming back as road commissioner. So I don't want to overstate what my involvement is.
so my question, I guess, would be to the board, do we have an active road commissioner? And if we do, I was road commissioner for 6 years about. And through Irene, I took all the classes that were offered by the department down there. And had a rapport with both John Alexander and Mark Pickering at the time. And filed for the grants. They told me that grants were something that file for them, even if you've got your grants in town, you've had your, because at the end of the year, there's always money kicking around, and if there's a grant on file, you get the money. I ended up getting two $90,000 culverts that way.
Yeah.
But, so my question goes back to, and this is no offense to Mark, I read the minutes, I saw that Mark's now being treated like an employee in town with some decent benefits and pay, and congratulations, Mark, I think Mark's a great asset to the town. But when I was road commissioner, I worked closely with Mark as to how we would, and I worked with the select board as to what we were gonna do in the season, present it to the select board and try to put a dollar amount to it. It seems like on Whitney Hill in particular, because I live there, that road hasn't had a grading since the spring. Here it is, the middle of August. The ditches are still full of the winter stuff that got dumped there this year, full of stone and stuff. So we have this issue where we have a road commissioner that is supposed to be reviewing those things. There's a ditch from my house down, the ditch is completely filled in. It runs across the road through Collins Mark driveway and out. The damage that we got from this last storm was significant in all the towns. You know, I'm not saying we wouldn't have gotten the damage, but we would have limited a lot of the damage if the roads were, somebody was going and ditching those roads. That road up through there, both sides of my driveway are full of ditches. Sam Warren went up through his machine and poked a hole so the water could run into there. So it's obvious to me that looking at that. Mark will do the work, but when I was the road commissioner, we would walk a road, we would say, this road we're gonna ditch this year. And then present what we're gonna do. It seems like we've got a road commissioner that's, in my opinion, is not doing that, but then when the roads wash out, we hire the road commissioner's company to come and fix them. You know, it seems the road commissioner sells us gravel on the road that turns into mud, and when we need to fill it in, we buy stone from our road commissioner to fix the roads. It seems like.
Alright, Mr. Stats, I'm gonna move on I'm gonna say one thing. I remember the day that you came into the office, and it was a few days, maybe the day before, it was a Tuesday probably, because I was in the office was open. Probably the next day was the select board meeting. We go to that meeting, we asked Mark specifically about the quality of the type of gravel and size of the rock, what was being used on Whitney Hill, all the things that you brought up. And Mark gave a lengthy explanation about the materials that were used, the lack of some of the materials that he wished that were available, but he gave an expert opinion and description. It's written up in our minutes, and I can't remember exactly the date of it to tell you, but it's also videotaped. But we did address those things when somebody brings it to my attention. I do try to talk to the person responsible. As far as the storm goes, RT has become has been emailing me. I am aware of what's going on in the community, and I'm still trying to get up to speed. This is a huge job for me, and I again will have to say that we're trying the best we can to get everything done. We're very happy to have Mark here. His expertise and knowledge will help us. I did talk to Mark about Whitney Hill a couple of days ago, and we put the cones out and when is he gonna get graded, Mark?
Well,
It's a long story.
yeah.
Yeah, but we don't have to-
Wait. I wanna get in here for a minute. This is seriously out of topic. This is no means by impression to shut you up, but I was.
I said what I have to say, I'm gonna. leave
Okay, I was
it.
gonna say, if you wanna go on about it, I would suggest you put it on the next meeting, which I'm sure John would be willing to do, and we can discuss it at length. We don't have the time to have Mark go on for a half an hour to answer a question, when he still has his road work to explain as well. Personally, I don't wanna get home at 11 o'clock.
Yeah, we
So,
try to keep the meetings to 8:30.
We're way out of topic, let me finish, we're way out of topic. You both have been speaking for a better part of 45 minutes now. 2 minutes are allowed to each person. We've been more generous with the time. Again, I want to say, this is nothing about shutting you both up. This has to do with time. And if you want to reinstitute the discussion, we'd be happy to do it. And this would also give us an opportunity to discuss amongst ourselves and get things in order.
Right.
And any questions, rather than having a lot of questions.
We had a scheduled member of the public, we knew what the topic was, we come and be there. And that would be to your best interest and ours as
Well,
well.
I appreciate you giving me the extra time. I don't have the opportunity to get away from the house as well.
I'm
We
sure.
can hang out all night if you'd like.
Could I just give 5 minutes before Tom goes there? My job is part-time and it's tough to, line up gravel. One of the things Brookline doesn't do is have gravel delivered to the yard where it's accessible by me in a truck to go out and fly whenever I feel the need. I have to contact their local vendor. There's vendors outside of town, which raises the cost to get the materials here. And so I kind of have to rely on our local vendor, A.S. Clark's Pit in town, which is very handy. And when I need it, I have to match their schedule to be in town with the grader ready to meet their trucks to apply. It does save the town a lot of money. I know there's lack of road work due to the way Brookline has no equipment. I can only do so much with the grader, so much with the shovel. I do travel the roads regularly and write down everything that needs to be done, and then I have the ability to rent once I deal with the select board to rent an excavator to do the type of work I want to do. COVID came along and kind of dragged things out for a long time. I'm sorry about the condition of all of this. It's basically a lack of material, lack of equipment. I know I could go and make phone calls to get everything done, but part of the deal with me working for the town was I get to do some of the work. If I'm the guy maintaining the culverts, I should be the guy to put them in and maintain them. So it's been tough and it's aggravating to me to not keep the roads up the way I would like to see them, the way the state would like to see them. It's such a slow, painful process, and I apologize. I have these projects that I talked about to accomplish. Whitney Hill, as you notice, there's a row of trees that was cut. That's very narrow. Eroding section of road, I tried to get grants, but the grants don't qualify because the water isn't close enough to a major stream. My idea was for last summer, it got bumped to this summer, and then we had the flood. But my idea is the section right now that's the worst on Whitney Hill. It's a tough one in the winter to plow, and I'm gonna widen the road from Knight's driveway down around the corner. There's some ledge that I'd like to have hammered out. And extend the culvert over so that when you meet people, one of you don't have to back up and go the other way. I do, having the pit in town is huge. I believe they process the gravel, making 3 products at once, at times, other times crushing ledge. So I think there was some quality issues in some gravel that they lacked some stone in it. It did get a little bushy there. Our weathers nowadays are changing, and we're getting more, when winter gets here, the roads freeze, and when the sun comes out, it thaws them right out, turns into mud. We keep applying crushed stone, and I believe we're making real progress in the quality of the road. We've talked about maybe putting some fabric under the road to help, but still the surface is gonna grease up the minute that we get the sunshine and the warm temperatures. So I know Archie doesn't come into the meetings, and I appreciate working under you, Tom. You were great. You did go out and look at a lot of stuff, and I do ask for help through Archie to come and look. I know that he's like you, a full-time guy that doesn't have a lot of spare time, and that's kind of the way it's been working. I am, like Dave said, we had some grants that got halted during COVID. And then we had Green Mountain Power was involved with moving some power to get one of the grants done, and now the trees are cut on Parker Road. We have a Better Back Road grant there, and we also working with Jeff Nugent down at Linden Regional Commission, and he's comes up and tells me what he wants done on the new Clean Water Act erosion grant. So I do have some grants going, and with people coming and going, it gets complicated. And Jeff Nugent is here to help me on grants.
I'm one who would like to also step up on.
I also asked Archie if, from here on out, would you want to take over some of these grants to see what they get done, help with the figures and stuff, so.
All right,
I just want to say,
okay.
I apologize for those conditions. We're changing the way things are gonna get done, and hopefully make some improvements.
Well, thank you very much for your explanation. Again, we are happy.
Thank you for your time.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
Good night.
All right.
Good night.
Thank you.
I
I did notice we had another person join the Zoom meeting this evening. There's no name associated with it. It says admin. Did you identify who you are?
What is that?
Is there someone online that says admin?
Yes, Marie Tattersall, can you hear me?
Okay, Marie, thank you. I'm just gonna change your, I'll change your names so that we know who you are and we can then address you because, I need to do
Thank
this.
God, I didn't know how to do that.
I'll do it.
No.
Okay, Marie.
Number 9.
Okay, all right, so I did say at the beginning of the meeting, Marie, that if we had people who came in online or in person, that we would move that agenda item up. So I am going to move to item number highways and roads, item number 8D as in Dorothy, and item number 2. It says discussion about opening the ditch on Grassy Brook Road near the cattle stalls for 200 feet to mitigate future flash flooding issues. Estimate of about $2,000. Archie Clark will check with the Agency of Natural Resources, Scott Jensen, to see if a permit is needed and is the town willing to do the project. In a brief summary, Marie and Chuck Tattersall on Grassy Brook Road had a very large flooding issue on the night of July 29th, I guess it was. And although I didn't see it personally, I understand it was pretty much a large moat around her house and in her basement. And by calling 911, she was able to get the Dummerston Fire Department in to do some pumping. And Marie reached out and wanted to know about the stream bed behind their house and if it was rerouted and if another culvert would solve the problem. I contacted Mark Bills and he worked with Archie and we contacted Chuck, and the three of them went up behind the building, up behind the houses on Grassy Brook Road and followed the stream and saw where the diversion was. So I'm gonna let Mark very briefly talk about the project, and then Maria, I'll let you address how you would like to see it remedied. Although I did tell Archie I was going to table any decisions on this because I needed to speak a little bit more with him about it, but he did keep me abreast of it and gave me the information that I was able to have a conversation and know what I was saying. So Mark, what did you find? Could you tell us about that water problem?
Okay, I believe that years of hard rains, especially this last one that came to us a couple weeks ago, created this issue that Mr. and Mrs. Tattersall are having now. And the water comes from spring sources and runoff high up on Putney Mountain. So as it gathers and comes down into a ravine, when it reaches the plateau behind Tattersall's house, enough material has come downstream and built up to the point where there's no longer like a narrow stream bed. It's just a big rubble of boulders and gravel. And as you get further away from the spread of the water, then you're just in some fines with mud and a lot of alders. And so the solution to the problem would be to recreate a stream bed around the house. And with today's standards and practices, you can't do that unless specific people from Agency of Natural Resources are reached to decide how this is the remedy. So Archie Clark, as an excavator contractor, works with the A&R a lot throughout the summer months. And so he was going to make that phone call to see if he could have A&R come to a site visit.
Okay, I can tell you that Archie did write to me. He said that the A&R said that it's a non-reportable stream issue. As long as the work was done by October 1st,
Right.
it would be satisfied with it. So how would you say to remedy that issue? And then
Just walking with Archie and Mr. and Mrs. Tattersall, we all agreed that the right excavation machine to get in there and pull material back to keep the water confined to a narrower path so that where it first jumps out of the stream bed needs to be redefined, needs to have a channel and build the bank up so that the water during a high amount of water rain would flow.
Between,
Yeah, because it goes so close to the back of Tattersall's outbuildings. It's always in jeopardy of another, quick hard rain. It's gonna do the same thing. It's gonna put a moat around the lower part of the house, and the fact that the basement floor is lower than the water table, it's gonna fill. So it definitely needs, with all our town working near water, we do have to stop by October 1st, that's state law. So a lot of times A&R, if you're in okay agreement with them to work in these brooks, they like it to be during the dry time of the season. Like some of these is not a year-round brook, it's more spring and so normally this time of year it would be
Empty
almost
dry.
But
But not normal
but
year.
not, yeah, this isn't a normal year, and 10-day forecast shows rain.
Rain. Marie, I hope you were able to hear what Mark was saying. We spoke briefly on the phone this morning, and I was pretty floored by what you said, and I was wondering if you would like to address the select board at this time.
Sure. The problems are not on our property. They're on two other properties that are upstream from us. And based on the discussed estimate of $2,000 of excavation work, we are willing to pay for or reimburse the town for that because it's protecting our property. And time is a big issue. There's only about 6 weeks till October 1st. So to move this along, we're willing to pay approximately $2,000 to get that done and rebuild the bank that's eroded over the last 10 or 12 years.
Well, yeah, so Marie called this morning. She was one of the residents who also offered to make a contribution to buy a wet dry back in the meeting house. And when we got done talking about that, she said, by the way, and we had this conversation. So Marie and Mark, and I hope you don't mind, I hope 2 weeks will be okay with you. What I would like to do is I already reached out to Archie Clark. I'd like to meet with him to talk about this and to see a time frame and to see how exactly this payment stuff gets done. But I will have an answer in 2 weeks for you, Marie, and if that's all right with you, I will keep in touch and follow up on it, and I'll have an answer by September 1st on a time that can be done and how best to do this. Is that all right with you, Marie?
That sounds great. Thank you. Thank you all.
I would just like to add that right now, the town does not own the proper piece of equipment to do that job. It's possible to rent the right piece of equipment, but I think talking with Archie Clark, who does have the type of equipment, maybe we might be able to all work together to make sure that something gets done before.
Marie also said that she would help if we needed to get permissions from any other neighbors
Yes,
to do that.
would be-
And if you don't mind, Marie, I will work with you with that. Is that possible?
Sure, that's fine. I have contact information for Priscilla Bell, but not for the bigger landowner.
Okay. All right, well, we'll talk on the phone the next day or so and set things up, and I appreciate that. That's a very generous offer. And I know we were a little tight on money this year already with everything else happening. But thank you for joining us this evening. Very generous and supportive of the town, and hopefully it will also reduce any flooding in the near future, and sooner than that later.
Yes, if nothing's done, it's not gonna change.
Yes, exactly.
Something needs to be.
Thank you
All right.
all.
Thank
you,
you.
Marie.
Thanks, Marie.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you again, Mark, for your time on that. So we're gonna move back along here to our agenda, item number 6, 2020 1-22, sorry, it's the number wrong. Sand bid approval to publish in the Brattleboro Reformer. It's the same bid as last year. I'm gonna read it out loud and then I'll make a motion to approve it. Town of Brookline invitation to bid winter sand. Bids are being solicited for winter sand for applications of the public roads in the town of Brookline for the 21-22 season. The approved vendor will agree to deliver the sand to the town's sand shed as needed during the winter season within 7 days of it being requested. The vendor will be responsible to mix the sand with the road salt as directed by the Brookline road supervisor as it goes into the shed bay. A sample of the material of approximately 1 quart size container must be submitted for assessment and evaluation by the town road supervisor along with the bid. The bid must clearly state the delivered cost per yard of the material. The town of Brookline reserves the right to inspect all sand deliveries and will reject any material that does not meet these standards set when the bid was accepted. The town also reserves the right to reject any and all bids and to accept the bid as it deems most favorable to the town. Send bids to the town of Brookline, P.O. Box 403, Brookline, Vermont, 05345, or hand deliver to 734 Grassy Brook Road, Brookline, Vermont. Attention winter sand bid. Sealed bids will be opened at 6:35 p.m. on September 1st, 2021 at a regular select board meeting. For further information, contact Mark Bills, road supervisor, 802-258-1389. Do you think 2 weeks, do you think September 1st is enough time to get, I mean, if I get it in the newspaper tomorrow, or get the contact for the tomorrow, I think we'll have a.
I would think that would be sufficient.
Okay, I will also put this on front porch forum and or our listserv so that everybody can see what we are bidding in case they don't notice it in the newspaper.
Send me a copy too, so I can put on the website.
Absolutely. Okay, all right, I would like to make I'll do it this way. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the town of Brookline invitation to bid for winter sand as read. May I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the winter sand bid as read signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, oh, okay, so I did the vote. So the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Aye. Pass this. All right, thank you. The appointment to the Brookline Planning Commission, we did have a motion and voted to appoint Mr. Daniel Gardner to the Planning Commission already, so that's very good. I have nothing for item C. We're gonna move on to old business, round schoolhouse grant work, briefly discussion about the window work, carpentry work, appointed committee members' roles, pest control, and additional repairs needed. Can I just summarize? Well, Stan,
How do you like to do?
would you do that, just summarize what happened briefly with the windows? We had a little lengthy discussion earlier with Mr. Stats and Carrie, but we can just select what to do.
Yeah, the work that was contracted out, the personal discussion that apparently happened between the historic commission and the vendor that was to do the windows. I found out 2 days ago was only to do the exterior of the windows, not to do both sides of the windows. So the question that came up about the inside not being done properly, there was a reason for it. It wasn't intended to be in the scope of work, but we didn't know that, and unfortunately, we're going behind people, checking on this and that. We just don't, by human nature, think of asking the simple question: are you gonna, when you repair the windows, aren't you gonna do both sides? I mean, it seems so obvious and upfront to begin with, but in any event, that wasn't done. The second thing was that some of the exteriors of some of the windows, not all of them, were not done to the standard of a normal professional job. That was brought to my attention by Tom Stantz. I that evening emailed the painter, and he indicated he'd take care of it by today, Wednesday, the 18th, I think. Yep. And so I haven't had time to go over and look at what he's done. And for those of you who aren't able to see, Bruce said that he has done it, and as far as I can tell at this point, I mean, it appears that he has fulfilled his contract as he understood it. And I don't know what recourse we have, if that's how it was set up originally and we just didn't know about it.
Yes, I think that's perfectly explained. How about the carpentry work? You want to say what?
One
Go
point.
ahead. Bruce?
The vendor, same vendor that worked on the windows in the schoolhouse, pulled the same thing and went actually to the inside of the windows after it was discussed and concluded that he was gonna do the windows. So this has happened twice. I just want the select board to remember this in the future, that if we hire this vendor again, that we have to be more than clear, it's inside and outside, man. When we say windows, it's the whole windows, because I went over with this vendor last time, and he fessed up and did it, but not before he put his hand out and asked for more money. And David will remember that, and I'm sure Gwen will too. So that's all I have to say for that.
All right, so we probably would not recommend it on our menu list moving forward. All right, discussion about the carpentry work done at the round schoolhouse.
Yeah, again, there was loose language utilized and, you know, when you're looking at a sill that is rotted, one doesn't think that splicing in a 4-inch piece of wide stripping for something that's 7 inches wide and 7 inches high is the fix, but apparently that is what was agreed to with the Historic Commission individual who discussed the job with Mr. Parker. And so he did what he understood it to be. I didn't realize that until after we looked at what he had done and thought back to the discussion I had with the commissioner of the one of the commissioners of the round schoolhouse, and then realized that splicing in doesn't mean a whole 7x7 piece. It could very well mean a 4 foot and a half wide by 6 feet deep by 4 foot thick, 4 inches thick. So the trim is even. It's the wood used was fine in terms of the quality of it. There's no cracks. It's aged like the original stuff. The remaining issue that the remaining issue is that the boards do not cover entirely the sill to which they're attached. There's about a 3-inch space of the bottom of the sill that's exposed. So, you know, and I don't know whether there will be, and I would be surprised if there was a comeback by the contractor based on the limited exposure I've had along the way. The discussion that occurred at the round schoolhouse between Mr. Dutton and myself back around or about the 8th or 9th of June, it became apparent that there were a number of things that could have been done in the building that were not asked to be done. Phraseology that materialized was, well, he might also, if there's money left over, repair the stack to the toilets. He might also repair the 2 boards in the southwest corner gable wall of the shed. When I did the scope of work, I thought I'd do my best by clarifying those. I did not even think that this gentleman would even deal with a stack to a privy, basically a 4-holder privy. So I didn't include that. What I did include was that the 2 boards in the southwest corner would be replaced. I had a phone discussion with him. It was in the scope of work, and wouldn't you know that when the work was done, those 2 boards were not replaced. He was called back. He replaced those 2 boards in an appropriate way, and it took my emailing him a call to get that work to be done. So when we're talking about the potential to have somebody replace all of the siding boards, the west wall, which he only put a few boards in. There were 3 boards missing on the west wall. He replaced more than that. And it looks like a solid wall, except it doesn't go down far enough on the sill, which means that it's not going to protect the sill that's there. And then on the north wall, which is the one that needed the majority of the work, I doubt, I mean, I hope we can, and I'm not trying to imply that I'm against it, But based on my experience today, I doubt that that's gonna happen. And I have come to look at it in terms of, we had a total of $5,000 to spend. It's probably like the meeting house, there was a furnace that was gonna be put in, a gas, hot air or heat exchanger. They hired a guy that had been in the business for 27 years. He agreed to do it. He ordered it, it's there, and you find out that all the hosing for the gas and the exhaust are on the wrong end of the thing. And so what do? You know, you're halfway through the mess that you're dealing with. And so you think that, well, the basic interior of the barn is protected. The snow, the rain, the elements is kept out. That foundation wall, it's on the north gable end, is solid. And the guy did a decent job, other than the length of the boards, on the framing of that north gable wall. The wall on the back, the west wall that has the rotted sill that is partially blocked off and repaired, is straight, protecting it from the predominant west winds. So I don't know how far we're gonna go with that, but that's the summary as I see it. That's what happened. And I would welcome anyone else entering the fray, but at this point, he hasn't even returned my email to him the other night of, I will be there tomorrow and take care of it. Nothing, just silence. The only way I knew he was there was Guy Panza told me.
You wanna say something, Bruce, and then we're gonna keep on? Go ahead.
We gotta review that whole scene, 1, 2, he should not be doing it. If it costs us more money to fix it right, we fix it right. I would suggest, I can't do it now, but I would say by October, my time should be a lot easier, that several of us walk around, look at the nature of the wood, the entire structure of that addition, and correct it. This isn't rocket science, this isn't hard, this isn't hard work at all. It's just a material issue the way I see it, and doing it. We don't need to hire somebody that's not gonna do the work correctly and call it back. Goodbye. Let's move on.
All right,
and do that.
we will bring this up at another time,
Yes.
and I appreciate that offer, and I think we also have communications from other people in town. Yes,
I had put together a list which did not appear on the last agenda because of the number of items that we had, but I created a list as I walked around it of things that needed to be done on that building. I believe I sent it to all the select board
Yes.
I
members.
have it here.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, it's 17 items long,
Yes.
and afterward, I have one more to go that I could add to that list, so there's a lot that's been neglected there, there's a big list of things to be done, and it's not gonna be an easy task in time.
But yeah, I have the list here, it's 19 items, it's very thorough, it's in,
It shouldn't be that bad if you have many hands.
Yeah,
For future
that's
time.
another issue.
all right, we're gonna continue on. I think I already did discuss about the appointed committee members' roles. As I said, I'm gonna bring the select board's attention next week, talking about dissolving that and establishing a rent schoolhouse committee and appointing new people. All right, discuss additional repairs at the round schoolhouse. Did you want to table that for now? The 19 items?
Other than including one comment, at the last select board meeting, I'd asked to spend up to $100 for barn boards. Lady in Newfane had a stack of boards, they're each 7 feet long, and that would have filled nicely some of the requirements, missing lumber in the current building. I went over there one time, she forgot about it, didn't show up. I went back the following Sunday, after she called me and says, look, there was a mistake. And by the way, my husband told you to look at the wrong pile of boards, because I did look at a pile of boards and they were nothing that we wanted in that building, in our building. She went up to the 3rd level of her barn, handed down stuff, and none of the materials were adequate for our needs. They were split, broken. Our boards are almost an inch thick. Those were like 3/4 of an inch. So it just wouldn't have worked, and so I didn't buy them.
Okay, thank you.
Let's get Mr. Bills in on later. We'll deal with that later.
Okay.
Pest control?
Yep, now we're gonna move to town hall, discussion about pest control at the office, rodents and insects.
No, you wanna do the pest control under the town hall instead of the round schoolhouse?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, my mistake, discussion about pest control in the round schoolhouse. Yes,
Okay,
thank
Guy came, not Guy Towns, a fellow from Abatum came and looked at it. There's nothing that needs to be done in that building, and frankly, as a 30-second issue, the town hall's clear, there's no extermination needed here either. No extermination needed in either building. The damage that's been done, he claims, and this is where Mr. Mello was absolutely correct, He claims if you put linseed oil over it, it doesn't kill them. What it does is it breaks up their breeding cycle. So when the larvae develop into metamorphosis into a beetle, the beetle comes out and lays its eggs. And it's the starch in the wood that the larvae love. So if you cover the wood over with linseed oil, they will not lay their eggs in that wood. That's what breaks the cycle and gets rid of them. The question, which I forgot to ask, because he told me a whole stuff I didn't even want to know or need to know about insect extermination, was I didn't ask him whether that meant we get to paint the entire interior with linseed oil. Because if they come out of one piece of furniture, will they go into something that doesn't have oil? So I've emailed them today asking for an answer to that question, because I don't want to be negligent
I don't
and
think so.
not look at that aspect as a possibility.
I don't think so, but we'll
Yeah,
see what
what
happens.
see what it says. I met the man, he's quite the character, huh?
Isn't he?
Yes. All right, so we did 1, 2, 3, discuss additional repairs. The list of 19, can we table that for another meeting, Stan?
I'm sorry.
What
Can
about
we take
the repairs to the round school?
the other repairs?
Oh, yeah, please,
Table
please,
that,
thank
okay.
you, very kind. Yeah,
Table. We're gonna table item E, 7E. All right.
that was a small key. Table.
Small table. All right, town hall, discuss
Okay,
about the
take the
pest
shot.
control at the town office, rodents and insects. Well, basically you said that the insects, there's no problem because those were old mud tubes.
The mud tubes are from wasps. The damage that is done to the sill is because of carpenter ants. There's no noise, there's no sawdust. He said it's not active, but he did something that I wouldn't dare to do, and I don't know if anybody else would do. Where all the poops from the mice are, he stuck his hand up there and pulled out a handful of mice excrement and put it into a plastic cup. And he said, wow, you had a problem with mice. And when he was up there with his hands, he actually fell into that area where the carpenter ants were. They had eaten out an area that's 1.5 inch thick sill, and probably about 1 inch of that is eaten up to about a length of 4 inches or so. He said we ought to fill that with some kind of rodent preventive foam. And he said that there's another area in that sill further over toward the corner that similarly should be filled with a foam. But there's no active infestation, no need for any extermination whatsoever, we're clear.
Hallelujah.
But,
All right, now you got the mice, but
you were explaining also that, you were explaining about the caulking of open spots coming around the building. Why don't you explain that?
Is that the time for that?
Yeah, it's right there.
Okay, all right, the exterminator was really good, as I said, he told me more than I needed to know or wanted to know, but it was helpful. In any event, he decided as a part of his thorough investigation, not just to look in that one area, but look at the interior of the foundation and crawl space. He found 2 areas, one in that corner over there, which I guess is the southeast corner. And where the last person that was here, Mr. Boswick, was it, or?
Yes.
Okay, there's an area there that is, if you get there and look at the crawl space in the dark, you come in, take your first step up onto the crawl space and look immediately to your right along the wall. In the middle of the day, you see light, So he recommended that we fill both of those spaces.
That and over in this corner.
Yeah, in this corner, he says it kind of goes down and he says he can't see where it goes up, but he can see light coming up.
Well, he should have filled
Well, he's not on his job, he doesn't have that
it.
material.
No, Scott.
Scott, oh, yeah, Scott.
He should have filled it.
So-
That's a different issue.
So that's that.
all right.
Okay, so just to wrap that up, town of BA, by winter, we're gonna have the building sealed regardless. Then we can go to the cleaning schedule, we're done with that. And I think it was mentioned once a month or something like that, or?
Every other month.
Every other month? Are you happy with that, Guy? That's fine. For that.
Okay, yep, as far as the cleaning schedule, October, December, February, April, and June, I will get the actual dates from David. He's gonna fill in his book and we're gonna schedule so that we can let the staff know that there's gonna be somebody in the building. All right, now back to reports, Mr. Tanza. Guy Tanza, town clerk report.
Okay, it's been very busy in the office, a lot of refinancing, a lot of conveyances of land and just people going into trust and so forth. And so that's kept us very busy, plus the rain, the storm kept us busy because we have one phone number and all the phone calls are channeled into the town office, but that's okay. Other than that, everything's good. We've had a few more dog licenses sold. We still have probably about 20 to go. I'm not sure about that. Delinquent taxes are down to about a little over $2,200. I'm pleased with that. There's just two people that I'm not sure about, but the COVID virus is setting a new kind of standard, so I've got to look at that before I get into a tax sale. The other thing is that I've been working with the listers, and I just want to let you know that the town maps have been all updated. They will be almost on the state side. We have them in a town. I've already installed them on our machines. Cartographic Solution CSI, Susan Boswell did an incredible job working with Helen and Mike Bills, and we're really where we should be, and we're moving in the right direction. So good things are happening in the office. It's been busy, and just bear with us. We do the best we can with 2 days a week.
All right. One comment.
Yes, Stan.
I'd like to offer a word of praise for Guy. When I did the survey of benefits to town employees and so forth, looking at tax rates, one of the things I did, which I did not present in that list, is the level of tax delinquency in all of those towns.
Okay.
The lowest one was $35,000 outstanding in delinquent
Really?
taxes. And one of them had a $99,000 outstanding in delinquent taxes. So to hear our town clerk give a $2,000 number is amazing.
In the last 4 years, we've had
Zero.
Right.
So
Zero.
the people in the town have realized that they have a responsibility and they have to be rewarded. And the few folks that, for whatever reason, they start to see that they have to make the payment.
Good job.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Yeah, I will talk to you about the dog list. There are 4 or 5 that dogs have passed away or have moved out of town that I am
Okay.
aware of, and I'll.
Oh, and there is one last thing. I'm hoping to have a meeting on the second week of September of the Board of Civil Authority to go over the voter checklist, which must be done by the 15th or the 18th. So I will get that out next week. I will mail you a copy of the voter checklist. We basically have to find out who shouldn't be on that list, because in the next general election in 2024, we will be mailing out ballots to all people in the state of Vermont.
All right, well, thank you very much. All right, I'm gonna quickly go through my select board chair report. Vendors.
She's gonna turn it on me.
Yeah. All right, for vendors, we did receive in May a list of, for payroll processing, for biweekly payroll processing, which sort of coincides again with biweekly accounts payable processing. We have to try to stay within the dates that this treasurer needs to work with. So in most cases, the timesheets, and if you want something that's due, for example, for the Saturday the 14th, it was the last day you could submit statements for the being paid on the payroll for the 18th meeting, which is tonight. So you need like a 4-day buffer that he needs in order to get the checks processed. And anybody needs another copy of this, please see me, and I'll make it for you. It's from May 3rd. Recycle versus junk left roadside, that's different residents have approached me, and I've talked with Dan Tower, who's helping us with the recycling. I'm going to make us some kind of a form with people's information on how to get rid of a washing machine that's left by the side of the road, who they can call. We don't have a policy otherwise, but I'm going to try to be as friendly as possible for getting junk that's left roadside removed. Number 3, ARPA funds received. We did receive the ARPA funds direct deposited into the account. We have planning for using the funds discussion. I did write to the ARPA resources at Vermont League of Cities and Towns. Linden Regional Commission is going to be working on providing some guidelines for us for the ARPA funds. I do want to say that Kate Buckley, who's the director for ARPA Assistance and Coordinations Program, is going to be in Southern Vermont, meeting individually with other towns on Wednesday the 26th. And she'd be happy to swing by Brookline and talk with you about eligible uses if you're interested. If you would like Linden Regional to join us, you can invite them as well. I would like to invite her to come on. I can certainly be here on Wednesday the 26th of August. Why not? I can.
Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday, the 26th. I'm gonna call her and tell her and I will email out if anybody else wants to come in and
Yeah,
listen.
I like
We can
that.
certainly,
I
don't
like
have to worry about quorum. It would be interesting to hear what she has to say. So
For
that's,
sure, we can ask the question.
you can ask her questions as well, so I will talk to her about that. Also, Sevens would like, since we've made a donation and appropriation to Sevens.
Dot,
Yes, sir.
Can I just make a point about that? I'm just looking at the email that you forwarded. She definitely says Wednesday. So
The 26th. She did say Wednesday.
my impression is she probably means Wednesday and just used the wrong date rather than having meant Thursday. But you should confirm that.
I will. I'm gonna confirm it when I'll send her a note and tell her that, yes, I'd like to learn more about the ARPA funding.
Okay.
All right, so SEPCO would like to come and visit. I'm gonna suggest they come and talk about how they spent the money that we donated to them and how it enhanced Brookline. So I'm gonna suggest they come in October.
Sounds good.
Okay. In October, because I think September's gonna be busy. Also, the Linden Regional Municipal Planning Grants are available for the Planning Commission. I'm gonna pass that along to the Planning Commission. There's also Emergency Watershed Protection Program. I received some information on that. I have to review a little bit more detail, but there might be some funding on that. If there is some.
You would pass it before.
But these are a couple things that came since I moved the agenda.
Okay.
I'm just letting you know about them.
Okay.
That's Car Tree and Timber. Okay, Car Tree and Timber sent me a quote for 1 day's work, which we approved at the last meeting. The quote was for $2,800. I did write back to Henry Carr and said that we were in the impression the quote was going to be the same as last year, $2,500. And he said, no problem. He resent the quote for $2,500. He said, going forward, his prices have gone up this year to $2,800 for a full crew for the full day, but he's going to save the town of $300 in this particular time, and I have that quote here for processing. Okay, Planning Commission organization, we already talked about this when Daniel was online. I am gonna ask, Gwen's not here, but I'm gonna ask Gwen if she would consider working with the Planning Commission, going to some of their meetings just to be a liaison. I do the same for the meeting house, and Bruce is doing it for the town for that. Stan, you've been involved in the round schoolhouse, so I'm gonna ask Gwen, and David, you've been doing the grant work, so I'm gonna ask Gwen if she can help out or just attend some of the Planning Commission meetings. Again, very pleased that our emergency and special meetings last week resulted in the hiring of our road supervisor, Everett Bills. We're very pleased, and so are the residents here. And again, our motion that we had was to also get that equipment that would be helpful for you to move on.
Yes.
All right, I have lister positions. I have 3 interested residents who have sent me an email for the listers. I have contacted each of them saying that things were really a little bit busy with the floods, and I apologize. And they were certainly fine holding off a little bit. I have to come in and talk to Helen about it and see how we can set this up. One of the applicants was actually an auditor in Weston, and he might be more interested he might be interested in something else besides the listers here in town. So again, I'll talk to Helen about that and set up some kind of interview process.
Does he live outside of?
No, she lives in Brookline. He lives on the other side of Archie Clark. His name is Stuart Duke. Not true, which I thought it was. His name is Duke. And they came to the meeting house a couple of weeks ago, and I met them in person. So that was nice. Mark, as far as the handicap parking spaces at Town Hall, I didn't bring the booklet with me, but I don't think we need to do all lineage. Now, I look at several place stores and that, and they have a sign on a post
Sure.
in a close area to a ramp, and I think that's
That
all
would
we're
be
gonna need to do,
sufficient,
is a sign and a post. We don't
Right.
have to get special lines, just
Okay.
right in here
Yeah.
and just have one space dedicated.
All
We
right.
also should be doing at the school as well, so I'll talk to you about that. I don't think we need to vote on who the sign.
Yeah, if we could, I'll agree upon which sign.
Yeah.
And then where exactly to place
We're
it.
gonna have to consult the school.
Yeah, that's fine, but we'll work on that, we don't have to vote on it.
Okay.
All right, handicap parking town hall. All right, next building commissioner report, Bruce Mello.
I'm gonna disappoint you, be sure.
That's good, thank you.
Building's done, it's been painted. The only thing that's left now here on in is maintenance. We'll be making having it on the AP warrant, the 14,500 for our meeting on the 1st. So I suggest if anybody's interested in taking a look at a building that hasn't, do so. Stan has with me, I've looked at it 3 times, Dot looked at it with me, and I'm pleased. I don't know about everybody else, but I'm happy with what they did. Mo called me up one day asking me about it, we had a great discussion. And he told me that for future that he would, in the bill, which he did, he would tell me the exact materials he used. He also gave me some of the stain as well. Over again, a gallon of that stain as well. And going forward, I'm gonna have a boiler room set up with a lot of information. The pictures of what happened before and after, maintenance schedule, the paint that was used, filters on and on. So I went over this with Dot yesterday. We're gonna just make that boiler room, a storage room, not be in the way of vendors in order to serve our needs, because things get a little crowded out in the main room. But that's basically it. If anybody would like to have any questions about the paperwork, I'd be happy to answer. Otherwise, you can go over there and take a look at it. Like I said, it's gonna be approved on the 1st. And the only thing left now is maintenance.
All right, thank you very much, the building does look beautiful.
Thank you.
It's been a long, good job. Been a long haul.
6
Okay,
years.
we're moving along, we're gonna be offline, no, maybe not. Highways and roads, Everett Bill supervisor, I had 3 things here. Number 2 was the retitle souls, which we dealt with, and the sand bid, we said we can do that by September 1st. So just tell us a little bit of review about what you're doing, and then we'll move along.
All right, so just to add to Marie Tattersall and Mr. Tattersall, you know, as the road highway repair guy, we generally don't do anything outside of our 25-foot right of way from this yellow line, middle of the road out. If there's something that we could do on a ditch to help them, be glad to do that, but as far as us going behind the house, we're kind of stepping outside the highway department. But again, if there's something that we could do as the town to help them, I think Archie is more fitting for the task, being that he works in the DNR, and I'd be glad to work with Archie. So
Okay.
just wanted to state that
Right.
by going beyond the right of way, we're kind of out of our jurisdiction, I've been told.
Well, that's one of the things I wanted to talk with Archie about, whether Marie hires him directly
Yeah,
or it's
That's the way it
done
should be.
as a town thing. So either way, I'm gonna clarify that
Right.
and speak with the Tattersalls and everybody be aware.
we did talk about, there's a major culvert going under the road, which we are in line to receive funding from the state for a box culvert, which was designed by a hydraulic study. But as we looked at the problem, that culvert really doesn't do anything for the Tattersalls. It's the water getting to that point where it can cross under the town's Grassy Brook Road.
Right, 'cause originally we thought we'd have to look at that culvert maybe a couple of years down the line. This is a more readily buildable situation to excavate out the
Right.
debris so that it can flow.
So once the actual problem is corrected, then the new culvert will be a bonus benefit for them. But first of all, there needs to be a new channel to keep the water from the resident.
Yeah.
And so since our last meeting, I've been working pretty regular, working with the Clark business to repair our roads. Sometimes I'm working with them, and sometimes if they have a spare machine, they've allowed me to utilize it and bring me materials to repair our ditches, fix the culverts that are flooded out, washed out, or plugged. So I've been spending lots of time on the details that were caused by the flood. They've got the road passable. I'm working, finished up with one of the grants, our erosion grant, that Jeff Nugent walked with me on and made plans for. That was the worst flooded section. So as they put it back, I gave them the details that I wanted to see that fit the grant. So we should be 99% finished up on a 3-segment erosion grant. And this will, we will be receiving monies back for this, as well as it's an upgrade. And as I mentioned before, there's one culvert to be replaced, which is on back order. But that'll be here before October 1st, hopefully we can get that installed. This flood has actually put us behind schedule for our general maintenance about a month, I'm gonna say. So normally by now we're putting finished gravel on our regular roads just to rebuild and replenish, which needs to be done every year. So that hasn't happened yet due to working on the flood roads. Not that it's not gonna happen, it's just
Hasn't
it's been
happened.
delayed.
Yeah.
And I know, talking about some roads haven't seen the grader since spring. The other thing about using the grader is I try to watch the weather forecast. If you scrape the road, it loosens the surface up. And then you shape it and the traffic will pack it down. But it's a little bit different than if it's set there for a long time and had light rains that condense everything. So I've kind of been a little bit leery about loosening the roads up due to, we had so much rain. And especially the hills, if you loosen it up and the rains come, there goes a lot of your gravel down the ditch, through the culvert, and still over the bank. So
Yeah.
I make a fence point.
yes.
Be careful tomorrow morning, we'll call for fence posts.
Yeah, I
Like
heard
7
1
o'clock.
to 4 inches of rain starting at midnight.
I thought we got past that.
We're not fences, it's $4,000. I'm gonna be out there.
So there's much grading
So
that needs to be done, which I'm headed for. The excavator on wheels that I asked permission to rent will be here on the 23rd. I was told,
Of August?
23rd of August.
Okay.
Hey,
And I asked for 1 month, and I said, if we're in the middle of projects and at the end of that month is available for a longer term, and she says, oh yeah, keep it as long as you want. So I just wanted to say that,
For free, right?
yeah. No
That'd be
charge.
nice.
Wow.
not for free.
So
Good job.
the big issue was, I really wanted to rent the mower attachment to go on this to do mowing, and the machine that had the mower was sold, and they don't have the mower anymore, and they're not planning to get another mower.
Sorry, I'm unable to hear. There's a lot of conversation.
He said he wasn't able to get the, over the rail, wasn't able to get the
Mowing
mower
attachment.
attachment for the wheeled
for the
excavator.
These,
Yes, there were several people talking at once. That was the problem.
sorry, excuse me.
So we're not gonna be able to get the mowing done?
Not for that machine. I don't know if we wanna try and put it out to bid or at the end of the summer, rent a mower again. Not sure how you wanna address that.
Because I was sort of hoping to get the knotweed down in the baseball field, otherwise I'll have to wait to spring, but. All right, well, let me know.
So maybe we could talk about it at the next meeting. I'll
Sorry,
try
it is on
figure
the
out
agenda,
what-
but wheeled excavator, purchase possibilities also for
and we
September.
can talk about the mowing and whatever we can do to get that done.
Okay, thank you.
So, the next meeting coming, I talked with our tree service and if the rain is gonna be torrential tomorrow, it was canceled for tomorrow, so he asked my schedule, I told him I would match his schedule if he could come and do it on a better day. So I'm just waiting to hear back what that day will be,
Okay,
but it was due for tomorrow.
right.
That's changed. I think that's all I have written here.
Quick question,
Yes, sir.
the date of October 1st comes up regarding work to be done.
The street.
Is it that it must be completed by October 1st or begun by October 1st?
It has, what that means is you cannot work in the water with permits. So anything that you're doing in running water has to end
At the start.
October 1st.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much, Mark.
And just one last thing,
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to thank the board so much for all you've done for me. I appreciate everything. I know you guys spent extra hours working. A huge thank you. Really appreciate it.
That was worth it.
Definitely, I like it.
You'll be busy.
We'll push you.
Okay,
And thank
All
you
right,
for the
well,
way you handled it.
we're coming down to
Yes.
the,
Thank you for before.
yes. Yes.
We'll talk about
explaining.
that. So we-
All right, so I'm gonna quickly go through my communications. We already talked about the email from Maria and Chuck Tattersall with the flooding. I did get a written complaint from Martha Berman about noise on a beautiful Sunday, and I explained that logging and working agricultural things like that sort may make noise, and there's nothing we can do about it. Tom Pavat and I had exchanged information about meeting with Daniel, and we also entertained questions about the quality of work done around schoolhouse. There were some emails exchanged back and forth on that as well, or came in. Not much as far as, one other email that just came in tonight, I'll read it to you. 3/18, on August 18th. Hello, Don, I am writing to inform you that I will not be running for re-election next year, and if we could find someone who wanted to take up the town treasurer position now, then that would be great, and I would step down. I took the position thinking I had time necessary to do the job, however, this is no longer the case. If I can help in training the next treasurer, I'd be happy to do so. So that's Michael Masters. So, again, Michael has not had enough time to do with real estate and the farming that he's doing, so besides the listers and planning and everybody else,
Got
we
that straightened
have
out, yeah.
another thing to deal with. So I just wanted to share that was communications.
Is-
All right, go ahead.
Question,
Yes, sir.
does that mean at this point in time, it appears, if I'm wrong, tell me, that Samara is really running the show and Mike Masters is kind of helping him, is that what I'm hearing to see?
I don't know how to answer that, I don't know.
Okay.
However, I
Fair
did
enough.
speak with Samara, and she said that she would like time on September 1st to address the select board as to some things she'd like to do in streamlining or end of the fiscal year that ended in July 31st.
Well, we should be thankful that she's helping us.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm glad she's thinking along those lines.
Yeah,
Correct.
right.
All right, so now we're gonna do payrolls. Payroll warrant folder. Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve payroll warrant number 2022-08 dated August 18th, 2021 in the amount of $2,247.99. May I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Stan Nova. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving payroll warrant 2022-08 dated August 18th, 2021 for $2,247.99 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none.
Could I have the number again, please?
$2,247.99.
Thank you.
That's the sign.
Oh, sign.
Right. Okay, the accounts payable warrant has two parts to it this evening. As the appropriations, which were voted for by the town in March, are being sent out. But the first warrant, I'd like to say this, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the check warrant 2022-07 dated August 18th, 2021. And this is warrant part A for regular bills. And the amount of this warrant is $24,589.15. May I have a second? Seconded by Bruce. Any discussion? I would like to make a note that the warrant includes the Newbrook Fire Department budget that we appropriate to the fire department for their services to the town of Brookline. Right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving part A of the warrant for regular bills and the fire department appropriation number 2022-07 for $24,589.15, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the payroll warrant part A has passed. I'm gonna sign it, pass this part around. So did he mind? Okay, this is part B of the check warrant report 2022-07, which are the appropriations only, as were voted by the town on town meeting day. This appropriation is dated August 18th, 2021, and the amount is $8,806. May I have a second?
Second?
Seconded by Stan. Any discussion?
Yeah, actually, Dot, I think there's a mistake in this warrant that I just noticed.
Right.
The SEVID's appropriation is listed as $1,500. It should be $1,590. That's what we voted on and the voters approved at town meeting. So that appropriation should be $1,590, and the total, bringing the total amount to $88.96 is what this warrant should be.
All right, thank you for noticing that as you were saying, and I'm like, oh, yes, we'll check this against the book. Any other discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor of approving the amended Part B accounts payable warrant for appropriations with the additional $90 added to the seventh appropriation, making it $1590, totaling $8,896, signified by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so, Dave, you, okay?
Oh, sorry, I said aye. I thought I did. I meant to, sorry. I voted in favor of it.
All right, so the motion passes as amended. Error in SEBE.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
could you give me the details of this last one again to make sure I got it?
Okay. It's, the details are 2022-07, Part B, appropriations only. Edited or amended with a $90 increase in the appropriation for SEVEDS, SEVEDS. So the total appropriation amount should read $8,896 as amended. Right, you voted on it, everybody, yes, you have, so I'll let you sign that.
Yep. Thank you, I did get it, thanks.
Okay, perfect. All right, setting the agenda for the next meeting on September 1st, we will talk about the wheeled excavator. We made mention of the planning commission. We will update information learned about the ARPA funding. We will return to the Tattersall ditch. I'll call it Tattersall ditching. We'll talk about the possibility of mowing and machines. The round schoolhouse versus the historical society. Appointments. And any other items that come up before then.
We'll open sand bids,
Oh, thank you.
presumably, hopefully.
Yes, sir. Open the sand
Hopefully we'll get
bids.
hopefully we'll get at least one bid and open it.
Okay, sand bids, all right.
Guys,
Guy, you have something?
Yeah, I would like to at some point start looking for an electrician to hook up our generator.
Okay, you can get some estimates, but the first one you can reach out to is Dumpiers, be one of the ones you can look to, because they have all the paperwork on file.
Right, okay, yes, well,
And then we can advertise for some. All right, so we'll talk about it.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, I just, I didn't wanna forget about this. I know it hasn't been, on our radar screen, but some point we probably will need to have it, but there's gotta be some external wiring that has to be done.
Exactly.
There is another firm that I had hooked mine up for me at my house. If you'd like the name, I can give it to you now or
Yeah,
later. Lawrence and Wilbur, or Wilbur and Lawrence in Bellas
well,
Falls.
I think we should probably put it out to bid.
It's about $1,200.
No,
That
well,
would be
oh, I don't know.
maybe more now.
mine only cost me $600.
Oh, wow.
Mine costs about $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah, part of it is going to depend on what is available in the panel, the electrical panel that we have.
Right.
That's a lot of the cost potentially is an expanded panel or a new panel. I had to pay more like you, Dot, because I had to get my panel replaced. So that depends.
200 amp, probably.
Well,
All right,
no,
so-
literally just for more space, literally for more space in the slots in the panel. So yeah, right.
Right.
So bad.
All right, so the electrician for the generator, open the sand bids, the mowing machine, round schoolhouse historical society, Tattersall ditching, ARPA, planning commission, wheeled excavator, anything else that may come before this board. Anything else to think of? No? We're not too bad in time.
Yeah, all right.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting. And have a
So
second.
moved.
So moved by Bruce. Any discussion?
You thought you were gonna cut it on that.
Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning this evening's meetings, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. The time is 8:46 PM. Thank you.
Good job.
If you end the Zoom meeting, then we.
Okay, and I'm going to.
Night, Peter.
Good night, David.
Not here.
Night, everybody. See ya.
Good night, David.
All right, I'm gonna
Let me
end,
know
I'm
when we're
gonna end
officially
the
off.
meeting. I'm not sure how I'm gonna end it, hang on. Let me end this.
Is there and
Well,
that
stop,
right hand
stop
corner?
recording.
Oh, okay.
Stop recording, that's what I got.
Recording stopped.
Okay.
And I wanna end the meeting, where's my?
There's a, and the
Oh,
button,
here.
lower right corner.
And-
Yeah.